And now I want to welcome somebody who seems to bop up on almost every radio station in town. Spent some time with 5KA and he has some special memories. Would you welcome Rex Leverington?
I was not what you call one of 5KA's greatest technical successes. My first job was as a junior technician at 5KA, along with Morris James, the mate over there. In fact, I was bloody hopeless, but they allowed me to stay there for 12 months. And I got some great experience when radio was king. This was before television. I remember, I think it was Studio B, which shared a wall with the men's toilets. And the urinal was right up against the wall. And when the red light came on, that means you weren't allowed to flush it, because the announcer on the other side was announcing. Well, thank goodness Doreen's not here, because I'm quite sure Morris and I used to do the same thing, was that when Doreen was conducting her home chat, she used to do recipes. And so when Doreen would go, a cup of flour, pause, 2 teaspoons full of salt, pause, a jug of water, for the back of her, as someone pulled the chain. I was introduced to, I think, one of the first portable tape machines. It was a wind-up one. It worked very well if you remember to wind it up. I didn't. And after doing an OB with Jack Fox and Margaret Baker amongst our sick friends, I came back with the tape that was a little round, and it went up like that, not quite broadcastable. And I remember, I think it was Rex Heading and Jack Fox trying to dub this tape with their fingers so I could go to air. Some great experiences, and Bob and Desi Moore, who are here tonight too. I remember when I did, I recorded something I think Rex was doing, whether it was a forum. I took everything along except the tape. And Desi had to rush home and get one of hers. And so we recorded over the top of one of her favourite musicals, which I think was Fanny, wasn't it? But the only trouble is that was fine, we recorded it, but there was a background of all the music on this forum. It was a good 12 months. I thank everybody I worked for. It was a great experience. It was nice to go back there in the 70s and do something I always wanted to do in the beginning, and become an announcer. Thanks, folks, and thanks, everybody.
And now we're going to move along to the 1960s and welcome Stuart J. and Dean Reynolds.
Hello everyone, it's lovely to be back in Adelaide again, and our sincere thanks to those people who organised tonight to remember us who've been out of the state for so many years, and here we are back in a city that I really love, where I was born.
So they're talking up the back again. They're not interested. They're probably from the 80s or the 90s, and they are really boring. Show some respect. Show some respect. Sorry.
Those of you at the back of the bus, come forward. If I go back to 1959, I was a little electric bass player with a group here called the Delaires, playing at the Princeton Club.
Princeton Club?
The Princeton Club. And my mother, my dear mother, in her infinite wisdom, said, for God's sake, go out and get a regular job, secure job. So I went down to Howard Lemon's barbershop in Glenelg, got a short back and sides, and waltzed into 5KA to meet Malcolm Benja, Benj, as he's so affectionately called. And Malcolm took one look at me and said, oh God, this is a good idea, because he was 5 to 1. There were 5 girls in the library and dear little Malcolm. So he thought it was a good idea to employ another boy. So in I went at the age of 19. And our very first job, a directive came down from Ross the boss to get rid of all the 78 records in the library. So one morning up Peel Street, was it? Pitt Street? Peel Street? Yes, Peel Street. This great big, huge truck arrived, and from the first floor record library they built this chute. And every 78 record in the library went down the chute, except a couple. And I have Nat King Cole singing It's All in the Game in my shed at Eltham.
Yes, here. So.
Neatly stamped, property of 5KA. Circa 1961, I waltzed into Jack Fox's office, dear Uncle Jack. I said, I'd like to be a disc jockey. And Jack looked up at me, didn't say a word, over his horn-rimmed glasses, paused a moment, and in his most mellifluous tones said to me, come with me. And I responded, and we walked down to the far end studio, and into the studio we went, 5 to 12 it was, on a Friday afternoon. Sat me down at the desk and said, there are the gongs. Doom, 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 doom. There's the script. On the script was, this is 5KA, 5AU, 5RM, the voice and choice of South Australia. The time is ... Time to cross to Community Sing. Yep. And there's Bill Long and Tony Phillips and Jimmy Chammings and all those waiting downstairs with all the geriatrics ready to sing along. And up came the time, he said, rightio. He pointed to me right on 12 o'clock. I went, dong, 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 boom, hit two at once. And Jack went, oh, my God.
You blew it.
I blew it. Now, the first line of the script was 5K. I got through that all right, but the second part of the script suddenly turned into Hebrew. And I went, time is 12 o'clock. Of course it was 12 o'clock. It was 12 o'clock on the clock. And there's little Maury through the Maury James. He's here tonight, peeping over the control room desk, and he squinting. Jack was squinting, and I managed to get out, it's time to cross what Community Sing. And dear old Jack, that crossed over, put his arms around me and said, you'll make it, son. You'll make it. I didn't.
Before we go to Dean's reminiscences, I'd like to confess, everybody's got to be, I'm not a Catholic, so, but I'm still going to fess up to Vaughan Harvey, that when I was put on nights, which really sort of, bugged my ego. So anyway, I was determined I was going to get home early. So what I used to do was record the last half hour of my program on tape with the expectation that the Midnight to Dawn announcer would come in early, which he did, and at 11:30, I went home. My wife today says, how did you cope with that? How did you must have been terrified. If the tape broke, what happened? I didn't care. I was sitting home with a drink at 12 o'clock as I signed off. So, Vaughan, I'm sorry about that, but I really had to fess that up on a night like tonight. So.
Circa 1963, in the early hours of the 23rd of November, 1963, I was in my usual position, half asleep, with a record playing through early hours of the morning, and the teleprinter went berserk in the control room. And it's an amazing thing in radio to see the words printed out of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. It was the most amazing, and it's indelibly imprinted on my brain forever to see those words come through all alone in the studio, not knowing what to do. Circa 1964, we had, of June of 1964, 5KA was the official station for the Beatles tour. Ripper. We were, much to the disgust of Fatty Francis. He hated our guts. Anyhow, we went through with that. That was the most amazing live radio ever to be seen, or to be heard. It was the 1963 Beatles tour, 64, sorry. June 1964 Beatles tour. Circa 19 what? Have you got any more circas?
65?
1964.
I arrived.
In 1965?
No, I think so.
Yeah. Circa 1964 again, I was invited by an advertising agency in Adelaide at the time, Webb, Roberts and McClellan, to walk across the road and do my very first television commercial, voiceover, for Amscol ice cream. And I had to read 9 words. Amscol ice cream, it's a food and not a fad. And Milton Ingerson was the director there. And I was paid £22.70. I was earning 10, 11 pounds or something at 5KA. So there's a lesson to be learned there. We have this evening produced a short film. I came over about a month ago, just a very short little cameo on the early years for you, just as a present to us, to you. Thanks a lot to Rex for coming around the other day, helping us, and to Carol and Greg and Vaughan, of course. We changed his audio studio into a video studio for one day. And here it is.